Okay, so this year I am really behind on September Blu-ray editions. I haven't made it, and it's November, so we need to get into this right now. So, starting us off is Wyatt Earp. I haven't seen this because it's 3.5 hours long, but I'll eventually get around to it. I don't know. I like the story of Wyatt Earp, and I like westerns, so I'll eventually see it when I actually have time, which I haven't had. If you can't tell, I don't have any time. That's why this video's so late, because I don't have time. Next up is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Nostalgia for everyone. I like everything about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory except for 3 minutes in particular. What 3 minutes, you ask? Well, let me answer your question with another question. How long is the song Cheer Up Charlie? What's that? It's 3 minutes long. That's the 3 minutes of this movie I don't like. Cheer Up Charlie is an awful song, and we all skip past it. No one actually enjoys that song. It's a terrible song. But overall, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is a pretty good movie. It pretty much matches anything a child would ever want. That's the reason a lot of people like this movie. Because everybody as a child had that fantasy of just, wow, what if I could just go into a world of sugary indulgence and get a lifetime supply of candy and see where the candy's made? It's awesome. It would be awesome for that to happen. Granted, I would probably gain a lot of weight, but it would be awesome nevertheless. So yeah, that's what I like about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Also, this is like my second favorite of Gene Wilder's movies. Gene Wilder plays Willy Wonka. So in terms of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, it's my second favorite of Gene Wilder's movies, but Willy Wonka is my favorite Gene Wilder performance. My favorite Gene Wilder movie is Blazing Saddles. Funniest of his movies ever. Blazing Saddles is awesome, and so, ow, my gosh, I hit myself. So is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Next up is Chef. Chef's a good movie. It's about this guy who gets fired from his job because he made a complete jerk of himself online. And so, he starts a food truck and brings around his friend, played by John Leguizamo, and his son, played by an actor I don't know. But, yeah, he basically brings his son across the United States in a food truck, just making food. And so I like it because there's this father-son dynamic where this father gets to share something with his son that he really enjoys and really is passionate about. And so, yeah, that's what Chef's about. I think it's a really good movie. Really good movie and a really heartwarming movie. So next up is The Sum of All Fears. This isn't a very action movie. It kind of has action in it. Mostly it's like a thriller, kind of. Like, it's very, what's the word? It's not very action heavy is what I'll say. And I don't think that's the worst thing. This is kind of a political thriller. So it takes some of the best parts of Air Force One and some of the worst parts of Air Force One and mixes it together to have essentially Air Force One. But, and also it has Morgan Freeman, so it's everything you'd ever want from an Air Force One movie. So, The Sum of All Fears is a Jack Ryan movie. Jack Ryan is essentially a super spy created by Tom Clancy, an author. Tom Clancy is an author, not Jack Ryan. But Jack Ryan had a few movies. He had The Hunt for the Red October, Patriot Games, In Clear and Present Danger, and The Sum of All Fears. And he also has a Prime Video series called Jack Ryan, where Jim from The Office plays Jack Ryan. Yeah! But what the heck was that? Yeah, but, The Sum of All Fears. It's a good movie. I wouldn't really recommend seeing it, because it's kind of boring. But, if you want to see it, I wouldn't stop you, because it's an entertaining enough movie. Next up is Bullet. Just a movie where a hard-nosed detective gets to the bottom of things, and I love it. Bullet's awesome. I love Bullet, and it has my favorite car chase ever. Don't believe me? You think there's a car chase better than in Bullet? Wrong. It's Bullet. Bullet has the best car chase I've ever seen in my life, and it's, in my opinion, one of Steve McQueen's best movies. I mean, it's not better than The Great Escape, but Bullet's still really good. I really like Bullet. I would recommend anyone check it out. It's a really great detective movie and a really great action movie. Go watch Bullet. I'm not even going to say what the plot is about because you just kind of have to figure it out on yourself. Just go see Bullet if you like action movies, and we're moving on. Next up is My Mommy's Name is Martha. My mom's name is actually Valerie. But Batman and Superman both have moms named Martha. Isn't that a fun coincidence to stop a life-threatening fight? Ain't that fun? Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Really, really lame movie. There's a few good fight scenes in this movie. There's a fight scene in a warehouse that's good, but everything else is really lame. That's the only good fight scene in the movie. Not even any of the fights between Batman and Superman are good, because they're also lame. Mostly, what I really don't like about this movie is Jesse Eisenberg. So, we know who Jesse Eisenberg is. He played Mark Zuckerberg. He played that wimpy kid in what's it called? In Zombieland, that's what it was. He essentially is slightly more muscular Michael Cera, and he's about as menacing as Michael Cera. So, the screenwriters for Batman vs. Superman just decided, you know what? Let's take the most menacing character in the DC universe other than the Joker. Let's take the second most menacing character, that is, Lex Luthor, and let Jesse Eisenberg play Lex Luthor. What? Lex Luthor is a billionaire and menacing as heck. And you get Michael Cera, essentially, to play him. They get Jesse Eisenberg. Jesse Eisenberg is essentially Michael Cera. I don't like that casting very much. On the other hand, I actually like Batman, played by Ben Affleck. I think that's a good choice. Here's the thing, though. Batman vs. Superman takes heavy inspiration from this book, The Dark Knight Returns, a comic book so great I own it twice. So nice, I bought it twice. I don't know why I own 2 copies. But essentially, in the final part of Batman, of The Dark Knight Returns, Batman and Superman have just a white-knuckled fight against each other. And Batman vs. Superman is very similar to that in that aspect, but also how it kind of portrays superheroes in a more dark and gritty fashion. So I do like how it kind of takes after the Dark Knight Returns comic. I like that comic a lot. One thing that a lot of Batman movies do is they take inspiration off of some sort of Batman comic. Let's see. Batman Begins takes after both Batman The Long Halloween, which is my favorite comic book of all time, and also Batman Year One. The Dark Knight takes after Batman The Long Halloween as well, still my favorite comic. The Dark Knight Rises takes after Batman Nightfall. Batman vs. Superman takes after The Dark Knight Rises, or The Dark Knight Returns. And then you got, what's it called? And then finally, you got Joker. Joker, it doesn't take after anything too much, but there's a scene in there involving a talk show host. It looks suspiciously like a scene from The Dark Knight Returns. Like, very similar. Yeah. So next up is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. A movie with a very loosely based story off of this. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the book. Now this is the book that traumatized me as a kid. Let me see if I can find some of the splendid little illustrations. This is a kid's book. This is a kid's book. And this is something you see in a kid's book. Oh, you don't think that's scary? Then let me ask you a question. Is this scary? This is scary, man. This scared me as a kid. And so, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This is very loosely based off the book. The book is mostly like a horror story, short story collection. And so, this, on the other hand, takes a lot of monsters from that short story, from those short stories, and just compiles them into one big story and utilizes them. I like that, and I think some of the kills in this movie are really good, but for a PG-13 horror movie, this is alright. I think the only, good PG-13 horror movies there are Lights Out, The Ring, and the others. Everything else is pretty lame, and Scary Stories to Tell falls under the lame category. It's not scary. Like, when I got this movie, I expected to be as traumatized as I was by this book. And I was thinking, after I watched it, I was maybe like, maybe the books weren't that scary. So I read the book again. Still one of the scariest things ever made in a kid's book. It's a kid's book. I can't believe it. But I can see at least some kids getting interested in horror movies by Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Oh yeah, one other thing. I'm going to go back on a statement I made earlier. I said the only 3 good PG-13 horror movies are Lights Out, The Others, and The Ring. I'm going to add 2 more to that. The first 2 Quiet Place movies are really good. Quiet Place and Quiet Place Part 2 are fantastic. Next up is The Hateful Eight. Can't see this movie, cause it's rated R. I'll never sing again. Okay, The Aristocats. I could deal without the anti-Asian sentiment, but the movie was overall good. Oh, what do I mean by anti-Asian sentiment? I mean this. Yeah, that's a part of the movie. Anyway, The Aristocats. The Aristocats is pretty good. I'm not a big fan of some of these older Disney movies as I expected. Like Robin Hood was one that I think was just terrible. Aristocats, though, it's alright. Like, I can see myself watching it again. But for a movie about Parisian cats, it was good. It was good enough. Next up is Edge of Darkness. This is a good movie. It's directed by Martin Campbell. Martin Campbell directed The Protégé, starring Maggie Q, Samuel L. Jackson, and Michael Keaton. But more importantly, he directed Casino Royale. Yes, Casino Royale. Not the really terrible one with Woody Allen and David Niven and Peter Sellers. I'm talking about the one with Daniel Craig. Yeah, that's that original one, the former, with Woody Allen and Peter Sellers. That's an actual movie. I want to see it. But Edge of Darkness, it's about this cop who finds out who somebody drives up to his house, shoots his daughter, and then drives away. And he's thinking like, oh, they were coming for me. But so he starts to kind of investigate why somebody was coming to kill him. And then he starts to find out more and more, like, maybe, who are they really coming for? Were they really coming for me? And so I like Edge of Darkness. It's kind of set up to be like a guns blazing action movie where Mel Gibson just kicks butt, but it's more of like a very condensed thriller. It definitely has action, but mostly this is very dialogue heavy, and the script is really good, by the way. Next up is Body of Lies. Body of Lies was directed by Ridley Scott, who we know to direct some really good movies, some really bad movies, and one of the most overrated movies I've seen, Matchstick Men.
Hey, buddy, ever heard of a line?
Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you pissed blood?
But I remember Ridley Scott mainly for Gladiator, Aliens, Alien, and Blade Runner. But Body of Lies, this is a movie about Leonardo DiCaprio playing a special agent, and Russell Crowe playing like the guy in the chair, the guy behind the computer who's kind of helping to locate people. So, Leonardo DiCaprio is hunting for a terrorist in the Middle East who happens to be very similar to Osama bin Laden. So it's kind of like hinted that he's Osama bin Laden, like Osama bin Laden. And so this movie's about trying to find a terrorist. And so Leonardo DiCaprio is working with Russell Crowe and the Jordanian security the head of Jordanian security to find this terrorist. I don't remember his name. But essentially, Leonardo DiCaprio's character is James Bond. He travels to like 3 different locations, mostly in the Middle East. He basically has no reaction to death whatsoever. He can still crack jokes under torture, and he falls in love with the local beauty. That is James Bond right there. But I think Body of Lies is a pretty good movie. Pretty good movie. It's very action heavy, but also similar to a lot of James Bond movies, it tries to kind of delve into the politics of this world without trying to get into the politics of our current society. Like James Bond, what he'll do is he'll be in like this own separate fiction world where there's other people involved in politics, and they'll be trying to achieve their own political goals, and it'll kind of be involved in the politics, but mostly it's an action movie. That's what James Bond does a lot. That's what Body of Lies does. A very good review by this movie, because I don't want to talk about this movie too much because I'm too stupid. But if you want to hear about this movie a lot, check out Roger Ebert talk about it. He's a pretty good film critic. He had some good thoughts. I happen to agree with his ideas on this movie. I'm not sure if he liked it or not, but I liked Body of Lies. It's a fun movie. And finally, the most anticlimactic end is Blood Diamond, because I haven't seen this movie. So that wraps up Blu-ray editions. Now on to Movie of the Month, where I decide the top 5 best movies out of these Blu-rays. So, at 5th place is Body of Lies, a fun little spy thriller with some pretty good dialogue, some pretty good action. I enjoy Body of Lies, and some pretty good performances from both DiCaprio and, more importantly, a really good performance from Russell Crowe. Next up is Edge of Darkness. Good performance from Mel Gibson. It's a good thriller. It has some good action. It has a good mystery at the center of it. At 3rd place is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. While this might not be the better film of the two, I like this more because it's nostalgic, it's my childhood, and Gene Wilder just brings so much life into Willy Wonka. He made this character who he was, and I would consider it to be up there with Gregory Peck as Atticus Finch as one of the most iconic performances of a book adaptation ever. At 2nd place is Chef, a movie very clear on its message that you should share what you love with other people. It's very heartwarming to see someone share his true passion with his son, and so I like to see Chef. And at 1st place, Bullet. One of the greatest action movies I've ever seen, the best car chase I've ever seen, and an overall great action movie with a great mystery. Well, that just about wraps it up for Blu-ray editions. Before you leave, why don't you tell me your favorite of all these movies? You just saw mine, it was Bullet. After you do that, you can head on out, stay safe, and watch good movies. Bye!